Learn to love fasting this Lent. Hi, I'm Mike Mason. This is the Immortal Combat Podcast. The Immortal Combat Podcast is the podcast arm of Very Christie. Very Christie is a Catholic lay apostolate devoted to help men attain the full stature of Christ by growing strong in mind, body, and spirit. If you'd like to learn more about our work, you can check us out online at verychristie.com and stjosephsociety.org. All right, gentlemen, happy Friday to all of you. It is Friday, January the 23rd, 2026. And it is time to start thinking about Lent. Ash Wednesday is on Wednesday, February 18th this year. It is, as I'm recording this, January 22nd. You're listening to this on the 23rd or thereafter. And it is time to get ready for Lent. And I have a suggestion for those of you who may be thinking and praying about what you want to do this Lent. I have a suggestion for you that I want to share. So there is plenty of programs out there for Lent. I'm sure all of you or many of you in the past have done lots of different things. Maybe some Lenten exercises that were very strenuous and extremely difficult. Maybe ones that were not so much. Maybe you just gave up chocolate or something, and that was about the extent of it. But this Lent, what I am proposing to guys who want to participate is to maybe do it yourself or recruit a couple guys in your St. Joe Society group or your Very Christie group, or maybe some buddies at work or some of your friends to have a Lent focused on the three hallmarks of Lent, namely prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. So we're going to go old school in that sense. So I recently moved to a new town in the upper Midwest, still getting to know guys around here. And I thought to myself, what better way to make friends than to try to recruit guys to do a daily fast for all of Lent? So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to share that plan with you. And then if you're on our email list, I'm going to shoot this plan out to you. And if you guys want to run with it, it's all laid out there for you. If you choose not to and you're going to do something else this Lent, that's great too. But here's a suggestion for those of you. I think fasting is a great way to honor God. And God thinks so too. So traditionally through the Old Testament times, through the New Testament, the patristic and medieval era, fasting is a hallmark of Christian penance. But fasting can be is something that's developed over time, and there's a long history to it I'm not going to get into in a 12 to 15 minute episode. But it's developed in lots of different forms. And some of you guys may know that the fasting rules have changed and developed even recently quite a bit. Today, as Catholics, we are only required to fast on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, when in earlier generations, you'd be fasting far more often than that. Of course, during Lent, we also practice abstinence from meat on Fridays, which used to be the norm year round, but that's also been lifted recently as well. I'm a big fan of the no Friday meat. I think it's a great penance. So I would like to recover fasting a little bit. It's a great way to practice moderation. And the type of fasting we're going to do is a daily fast. Now, last year I did a fast similar to the one I'm proposing. And as I did it, it was just me and a buddy of mine did it together. I read this book called To Love Fasting, The Monastic Experience. Okay. Really excellent book. I've wanted to read it for a long time, but it's been out of print for a while. But this is a great book, and it's skinny. But in this book, he advocates for the daily monastic mass. Pardon me, not mass. They do that too. Fast. And the fast here is a 1 meal a day fast. Now, I am not proposing that with the plan I'm going to share with you. Okay. If you're interested in doing a 1 meal a day fast, God bless you, brother. Okay. I think that'd be a great thing to do. That's not what I'm proposing. What I am proposing from the reflections of this book, which I think I'll be sharing throughout Lent and such with you guys on these Friday podcasts. What I am proposing is a daily fast. It is very possible to do a daily fast for every man listening to this podcast. And by the time you get to Easter Sunday, you're not only spiritually more fit if you practice it correctly, but it can also have a lot of psychological, emotional, and physical benefits to it as well. Okay. I'm a firm believer that, especially for we laymen, penance and mortification needs to be sacrificial, of course. But if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, The spiritual authors we look to a lot talk about that we need to practice moderation in our penances and mortifications. Okay. If you don't practice moderation, one, it can inflate a person with pride. We don't want that. That undermines the whole project. And it can be bad for our health, which is not good for our state in life. Okay. So, practicing a moderate amount of penance and mortification is a good discipline to practice. So, what I'm proposing is a moderate amount of fasting daily for all of Lent. Okay. That's the proposal. Now, as you guys know, those of you guys who are in St. Joe Society or very Christy groups, or maybe you've stumbled across this podcast, um, I'm a big fan of men doing ascetical disciplines together as a group. Okay. One, the accountability is helpful. Two, it helps build friendships, a brotherhood, and those sorts of things. But to do that, to kind of draw a group together, it's best to establish norms, okay, in the rule that are doable for everybody. Okay. Now, some of those norms for some guys who maybe been fasting longer or practicing asceticism, or they're more um, seasoned in their faith, so to speak, a lot of the bar can feel more like a floor, right? Like a foundation to build off of. For some guys who maybe are just coming into the faith or they haven't practiced as much in the past, the standard can feel like a ceiling. The reason why I like establishing that rule is guys, no matter where they are in their spiritual life, can be a part of the group. If you're a guy where the fasting I'm about to propose to you seems too light, you want to go on beyond it, awesome. Okay. That'd be great. Okay. You can commit to something you can do alongside the men in your parish. But then also, if you want to push yourself a little bit, you can go above it. I may even go beyond this a little bit myself, but that's between me and God. So if you want to go beyond this plan, fantastic. Great. Between you and God, you can work that out and then still support the guys who do this fast that they might find it difficult by practicing it alongside them. Okay. So think of this rule as a foundation for some, a ceiling for others, but it is something you can invite all guys to. Okay. So here's the proposal. I'm going to read off the screen here, but if you're on our email list, I'll attach this to the email I'm sending out to you guys. So prayer. Okay. For those guys who practice the Very Christi St. Joe Society rule, nothing's going to be new here. You may want to add some prayers and devotions during Lent. But for this one, I wanted this to be something you could invite guys into that maybe aren't part of the group, or guys who are. It's just like a reminder of doubling down on disciplines. But the prayer would be the morning offering to Our Lady of Mount Carmel. And then we're going to do some spiritual reading, which I'll talk about what the spiritual reading will be in a minute. Midday prayer, the Memorare to St. Joseph. And the evening prayer, the examination of conscience and the act of contrition. That evening prayer is a good one to do with wife and kids. So if some of you guys who maybe are doing these disciplines and you want to stretch yourself a little bit, if you're not doing family prayers, that evening prayer with the family, that is one of the primary ways I lead my family spiritually, okay, is through that. Now, we do other things as well, but that evening prayer and examination of conscience, it goes well with bedtime. My oldest is 13, my youngest is 2. We can do it as a family, and it works really well, helps build that discipline. So if you're doing your own personal prayers, but maybe you haven't led the family yet, that's a great one to jump on here. So that's the prayer. Let's go with the almsgiving, then the fasting. I'm going to challenge guys to practice almsgiving because the church asks us to do that. Each man for himself will determine what his Lenten alms he will contribute to the church will be. This is not something shared. So if you're going to run this in a group, okay, the almsgiving is not a public thing. That's between you and God. You determine that beforehand, and then you make that happen. Okay. And so I'm going to leave it there, but challenge guys to determine how they're going to give alms and then to give it, but that's not something you'd share publicly. Okay. It's between that man and God. Lastly, let's talk about the fasting. The fasting discipline here. We are going to start this on February 1st, okay, which is 1 week from Sunday. This is what's called Septuagesima Sunday. Now, there used to be a pre-Lenten season that would prepare people for Lent. This was in the old calendar. When the new calendar was instituted in the early 70s, they took the season out, which is unfortunate because this pre-Lenten season is really helpful. I've been practicing it for the last 5 years. It really helps me gear up for Ash Wednesday. This fasting routine will begin on February 1st because we're going to ease into it. Now, the fast you're going to do starting Ash Wednesday through Easter Sunday is this 16-hour fast daily from Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday while still observing the fasting rules of Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. So the amount of food you're going to eat on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday has to be within keeping the church. What we're looking at here is a 16-hour daily fast. Now, fasting here, the rule is very simple. No calories at all. You can drink water, and you should drink lots of it when you're fasting. You can drink black coffee because there's no calories in that. And you can drink tea because there's no calories in that. Okay. So those are acceptable during the fasting periods. No calories whatsoever, not even a little bit of calories. So it's a 16-hour daily fast. That's the goal for Ash Wednesday to Holy Saturday. Okay. And then after Mass on Easter Sunday, go to town. 16-hour daily. Now, why are we going to start on Septuagesima Sunday? Some guys have never done this kind of fasting, which is called intermittent fasting. They might need to ease their way into it. So starting February 1st through February 10th, we're going to do a 12-hour daily fast. Now, this isn't that stringent. Basically, what this means, if you're used to eating 3 meals a day, you're not eating after supper. That's a 12-hour fast. It's not going to be that tough, but it's going to get you kind of in the rhythm of, okay, 12 hours a day, I'm not eating. Okay. February 11th through 17th, 14 hours. So if you're used to, if your eating windows are 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., you're going to bump that to 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay. So a 14-hour daily fast then. And then you will bump this up to a 16-hour fast. Okay. Now the 16-hour, and that'll be on Ash Wednesday. So 16-hour fast, you determine when that eating window is. It could be 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. What a 16-hour fast generally is most guys are going to skip breakfast and not eat anything after dinner. Okay. This is a very doable fast. You can honestly start a 16-hour fast immediately if you want. It's not that big a deal. After a few days, you'll get used to it, but easing into it can be helpful too. Okay. She'll do a 16-hour daily fast, and that is every single day, no breaks, all of Lent. Okay. What this is going to help you do is build moderation. It's an exercise in penance, of course. It's going to be sacrificial, but it's an exercise in moderation. What this is, you're going to be cutting out a lot of is you're going to be a little hungry in the mornings. And then in the evenings, you're going to be cutting out snacking and things after dinner, which is good for you anyhow, physically. Okay. So this 16-hour fast, it's going to be penitential. It'll be difficult, especially in the beginning, but once you get used to it, it won't be that bad. And it's just going to be a good practice of saying no. Okay. I have done 16-hour fasts. There was times I did them for years, once you get used to it, they're not bad. They're always going to be sacrificial, but your health's not going to go away. In fact, for a lot of you guys, your health's going to get better by Easter Sunday. Now, that's not the goal. We're not going to, it's not a weight loss plan. But the reason why I'm adding that is whether it's into this book, To Love Fasting, or even other spiritual authors, our penance and mortification don't need to destroy our bodies. They can build them up. That's perfectly fine to do that. Okay. So this is a very doable Lenten exercise that'll be good for you spiritually, physically, psychologically, emotionally, the whole deal. Okay. So it's a real good opportunity to practice some disciplines with that. So I want to challenge you guys to consider doing this. Now, here where I am, we are going to look to have our meetings at the local Catholic high school, because I'm going to try to recruit some dads there and try to kind of build up our community, our local Catholic schools. And we're going to do it from 6:30 to 7:30 in the morning every other week. Okay, so our meetings will be January 29th as an intro meeting, and then we're going to do February 5th, 19th of February, March 5th and 19th, and then April 2nd. Okay, every other week meetings I think are sufficient. And at those meetings, we are going to discuss the spiritual reading. Okay. Now, the spiritual reading we're going to do is we are going to read from this book, The Spiritual Combat by Dom Lorenzo Scopoli. Okay. Now, this is a version Catholic Way Publishing I got. Tan has a copy on Amazon you can get. There's actually a second treatise in there that he writes. You can get it cheap. I saw them for usually for like $5. You can get a new copy for 11. We're going to go through this. And when I send you guys the spiritual reading schedule, starting February 1st, you're going to read normally one chapter per day. Now that might turn you guys off like, holy cow, I got to read a whole chapter. Look at the size of this book. Okay, chapters are small, like a page and a half. It's a devotional book, really good one. We're going to read this as a group, and then when we meet to discuss, we're going to discuss how the fasting's going, but primarily we're going to discuss the nature of the spiritual life and that the fact that the spiritual life is combat. Okay, so that's going to be our plan. And what I'll do for you guys if you're doing this is love for you guys to reach out, and I will be willing to kind of pull together some names if guys reach out and say they're going to do it. If you want some discussion prompts, because I'm going to prepare those for when I lead the discussion with my guys here, I can send that to you guys. That may be helpful too, or maybe post them in these emails. Maybe that's the most efficient way. But all right, that is the plan that I'm going to do to Lent, so that I can have a good Lent. Make friends. Ironically, doing ascetical discipline is a great way to make friends. Hopefully, recruit some guys in my community to do it so we can get to know each other better, and build some friendships and build some good community here. Last thing, I'm going to talk about this more in the future. I'm going to challenge guys as they go through this fasting to do an optional 40-hour no calorie fast from 3 p.m. on Holy Thursday through 7 a.m. on Holy Saturday. Okay. I've done this in the past, guys. It's a great experience. And so I'm going to challenge you guys to consider doing that. You don't have to, I'm telling you guys this and the guys I'm going to be meeting with. Nobody has to commit to doing that out of the gate. What we're committing to is a 16-hour daily fast from Ash Wednesday to Holy Saturday. That's what guys are committing to. But I'm going to challenge you guys the optional. As I roll out these Friday podcasts, I'll be discussing things from the spiritual combat, from to love of fasting, and I'll also give you guys some hints and tips on how to make fasting easier on yourself. Okay, now, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving advice like that. I'm not a nutritionist, but just some dietary suggestions that could make this a lot easier, and hopefully it'll help some of you guys if you've never done a fast that long. Okay, that you might take it on, because that 40-hour fast can be super edifying. It can also be challenging without being painful. So we'll talk a little bit about how to do that. But okay, I'm over my usual. Try to stick to 15 minutes. We're up to about 17 and a half. So I'm going to cut this off. We're going to talk more about this. Feel free to reach out to us in the comments on here if you guys are interested. I generally don't comment on YouTube videos because, like you guys, I'm super busy. But I'm going to start checking on these Friday podcasts. So if you guys have any comments in there, or I'll be checking those. And then if you guys want to reach out, you may do so through our contact page on stjoesociety.org, and we can get in touch with you and get you some materials if you're interested in trying to run this group. So, all right. I hope you guys are doing great. I'm going to cut it off there. Have a blessed week. Let's start preparing for an awesome Lent so that we can grow in holiness. And as we detach ourselves from good things of this world, we can attach ourselves to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So have a great week, fellas. I'll talk to you next time. God bless.